All right, this is the follow up, and we are following up on a live video I did a couple months ago where I featured the great movie and album Bring On the Night. My guest today is the wonderful Dolette McDonald. Dolette, welcome to the follow up, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me, and I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, my pleasure. Absolutely. So, let me just give you a little background and all the listeners and watchers out there a little background as to what this is all about. A couple months ago, I did a live video on Georgia's Space Chat about an album and movie that influenced me greatly, and I believe also a lot of other people. The movie was called Bring On the Night. The album was Bring On the Night, the live album. And in the course of that live video, there were a lot of comments that came in that kind of resonated my impression about the movie being really incredibly influential, especially when it came to an understanding of freelance work for Black musicians and sort of a new definition of that. And you know, since that live video was quite was well received, I thought it would be a really good idea to do a follow up with Dolette McDonald today, who was there, who was one of the singers at Bring On the Night. So I need you all who are watching out there to show some respect because that is a big deal. um, let me get right into it. I will give you a little bit of an analysis of the situation or how I saw it, or how I see it. And,
Okay.
perhaps you can enlighten us afterwards. It is my understanding that Bring On the Night, the project, the movie, and the subsequent recordings, I should say, sort of changed the landscape of freelance work for Black musicians tremendously. All of a sudden, you had probably shouldn't say all of a sudden, but you had this rock musician, rock star, white, British, well established, very very well established, and that cannot be overstated. Like the Police were a huge deal, um, who started, going solo, and the band that he put together was all black, and on top of that, most of them coming from a different genre of music, right? So that alone signaled a lot of people, a lot of musicians, myself included, that this there is a possibility here. There is, and I was a teenager at the time, but I could see myself in all of you working with Sting. It just made sense. Like, okay, there's a possibility, there's a room for me. So my question to you, Dolette, is, um, at the time, did it seem like uh, the influence that we now sort of take for granted? Did that was that something that was on your mind? Was that something that was on your horizon, so to speak?
For me, no, not at all. I had previously worked with the police, and
Yes.
um, so that was an extension for me of my previous gig.
Right.
It was weird, but because I knew Sting, and uh, a short story about that was last night of the Police Synchronicity tour. Sting was in a horrible, horrible mood. And um, I know why now, but at the time I didn't. And we were at the airport getting ready to go to our respective homes. And I sat next to him and asked him what was going on. And, you know, and he said something about the singer singing out of tune. And we had a little disagreement about that, because no singer wants to be told they sing out of tune.
Of course, yeah.
And but he did say to me that he had something in the works and that he would give me a call, which
Mm.
I didn't believe because I didn't I didn't receive that energy from his organization.
Right. Right.
And so he called me, and for me, it was just another gig.
Right.
You know, I didn't look into the future. I didn't. I concentrated on, okay, I'm excited. I got a new gig. It's with Sting.
Right.
Know him. So, at least there was some history there.
Oh yeah. Oh
And I
yeah. Yeah.
think
Yeah.
part of, I believe, I may not be right in this, but part of the reason why he hired me was for comfort.
Mm.
Would have someone there that he knew. You
Right.
know, all these other people were strangers.
Right.
And
Right.
besides the crew, I was the only person that he had worked with before.
Oh, check that out. That's so deep. That is
Yeah.
so deep. That is, I mean, that's incredible, and that's very, very important to realize. One thing that the research of my live video has kind of shown over and over again was that all of you who were involved in the band were incredibly prolific at the time. You had worked with the Police on the Synchronicity tour. You had worked with Talking Heads before
Mhm.
that. You and Janice Pendarvis went on to record and sing with the Rolling Stones.
And we
Everyone,
did a movie and a tour with Laurie Anderson as well.
there you go, Laurie Anderson. I mean,
Yeah, so it was
that's
great. We did that as well.
incredibly deep. Also, there's this. I always, with the live videos I put out, I always put together playlists for my audience, right? So part of the idea behind the playlist was that to show that everyone involved was a consummate is I shouldn't say was is a consummate professional who just had this incredibly workload and just kept it going. Like there was no it was not as if the career was sort of on a plateau and then all of a
Right.
sudden there's Sting and then there's another plateau. No, it was a constant climb. It's a constant workload, right? And that is something that really changed everything for me. That realization. Also back then, that wasn't necessarily a realization that I got to back then.
Yeah.
But now knowing what I have learned through this research, almost almost somewhat intimidating to figure out that, oh, wait a second, you guys were just working all the time, right? That's my question to you, of course, is that, was that something that was on your on consciousness? Were you consciously aware of who you were, working with? Was that something that perhaps, influenced you in any way or shape or form?
Well, I was definitely aware of who I was working with. As a matter of fact, when I found out th- who the musicians were going to be on that Sting tour, I was so intimidated
Mm,
because I knew that, I always try to bring my A game, but I had to bring something a little extra
of course. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
to just be on the same level
Yeah.
as they are. Not they were. They're
They are. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
after
Yeah.
all these years, they're even more amazing.
Mm, mm,
Um,
mm, mm.
so I really made a conscious effort to concentrate on doing the best work I could possibly do. And fortunately, um, my singing partner at that time was Janice Pendarvis, and I knew that the two of us could knock it out of the park. And, there wouldn't be any apprehension on my part about our qualifications.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's
To,
a blend that lets you that two of you kind of move as one, and that's
yeah, yeah, it was just, it was almost like the universe put us together
right.
for that time because it was our time and it needed to be us.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, totally, totally. What you're saying makes a lot of sense and is incredibly deep because it definitely goes to understanding who you are and understanding your self worth in the moment. This which I'm perhaps. um, I am of a different generation, but I am not the younger generation out there anymore.
Right.
You know, and there is definitely, you know, there might very well be a misunderstanding or a certain reluctance to understand that, okay, well, I actually have to, I'm bringing something to the table, you know, and understanding that all these people around me are all bringing something to the table. They're there for a reason. It's not just, you're not just a body on the stage. Like, you are bringing something to the table. You have to bring your A game.
Yeah.
You know, you have to do all of that. There's one thing that I wanted to ask you about, and that has to do with all of the musicians involved. And I um, purposefully say musicians because singers and instrumentalists, we're all musicians, we're all the same, right? So it makes it easier to just say all of the musicians involved. um, we're coming from different genres than Sting and the Police, and you know, we're definitely coming from different genres than rock music. And very often the conversation when it comes to, you know, kind of crossing over into different genres or expanding your reach, that conversation includes the idea of being open, like being open to opportunity, being open to situations, having an open mind, and all of that. But very seldom the conversation is sort of defining what does that actually mean.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, since you were there and what your work has done for the rest of us, you know, has definitely opened a lot of doors. How do you define having an open mind? How do you define being open?
Well, there, there are two ways I look at that. The Dolette that worked with Sting
Mm-hmm.
and the 68-year-old Dolette
Mm.
now.
Right.
So the person that I was then, I was open, but there were personal things that had me a little uh, closed in
Okay.
because I was hiding from something.
Okay.
I was open musically,
Yeah.
I was open spiritually,
Yeah.
but there was this one thing that I always thought I'd be found out about.
Mm. 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 Mm.
So there was a side of me that was totally closed down.
Right.
You know, I always kept things at an arm's length away.
Right.
Um, but being open uh, certainly is the key to progression.
Oh. Okay.
You cannot progress
Right.
unless you're open.
Right.
That's musically, that's personally, that's with everything.
With everything. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And that's the 68-year-old Dolette McDonald talking.
Of course.
Because, because once I let go of that secret that I was holding,
Yeah.
that thing, um, my whole world changed.
Yeah.
It allowed me, it afforded me the opportunity, as one of my friends said to me, "You're free."
Right. Right.
Gave me a sense of freedom that I never.
Right.
And that's musically, I'm doing things musically that I've never done before. I would have never thought of doing before.
Mm.
Doing things spiritually. You know, I mean, my whole world just kind of a light started shining. So
Right. 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 Right.
that's the two sides of being open
Right.
I've experienced in my life.
Yeah, 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 and that you know, that is pretty deep. That's very important to realize that having an open mind, having an open, you know, conversation with yourself, you know, maybe open can be to a certain degree said. into honest. That's a possibility. I mean, that's one definition. I don't want to say
That's
that's
right.
the definition, but
No,
there's
but
like,
that is a definition for
you
sure,
know there
honesty.
there's a correlation right there, and that does influence how you perceive certain situations and how you act in those situations. Is again, like, Bring On the Night. I was born and raised in Vienna, Austria. I live in Brooklyn now for many years. But at the time when the movie came out, I didn't see the movie in the theaters. I was not privy to that. But I did see, on one particular theater had the poster and screenshots of the movie outside, right?
Oh, wow.
So,
Okay.
on my way to school, I would pass by that theater and I would see the poster and I would see the screenshots, and it meant everything to me to see all of you up there on the posters, even without hearing the music or seeing the movie or anything like that. Um, it became so what's the word I'm looking for? It became so apparent that there was a high level of professionalism, right? A high level of carrying yourself, of having these one-on-one exchanges with Sting, who was, let's not forget, who was your boss,
That's
at
right.
the same time. So,
Yeah.
the, all of that, even through the pictures, kind of came to me, or came to a lot of people, right? Um, and all of that, the basis for all of that seems to be having that openness and being able to be in the moment and carry yourself and contribute, and also, let's not forget that, the flip side of that, the openness of Sting.
That's what I was just getting ready to say.
Yeah.
If he had not been as open as he was,
Right.
it would have been a completely different
Right.
uh,
Right.
situation. I've worked with artists who are not open,
Right.
worked with artists who they wanted to sound like the record.
Right. Right.
They don't want any deviation from their vision, from their. I've done that kind of gig,
Right. Right.
but Sting was not that person.
Mm.
He allowed these musicians to bring to the table what they chose to bring to the table and
Mm.
edit it from there. But he did not. There were certain things, of course, as a songwriter, as a musician, he heard and he wanted to present.
Yeah.
I watched the rehearsals, and it's especially Kenny Kirkland. He would just let Doc do his thing.
Right, right, right,
Yeah.
right, right. And that's, I mean, that's the outcome is unbelievable, because even after all this time, the true test of a great recording or a great project is, does it hold the intensity? Does it hold the focus? Does it still inspire? And of course, in the course of this live video, I was listening to the album a lot. Believe it or not, that was also the first time that I listened to the studio album.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I,
Okay.
I never listened to the studio album. I always went straight to the live album.
Yeah.
You know, I,
Well, I about once a week, my favorite thing is to put on When the World is Running Down, bring
mm,
on and listen to Kenny Kirkland solo.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
And I have to tell you that there is not one time that I listen to that
Mm,
I am just not losing my mind. I
mm,
mean, I you cannot sit and listen to that. There's
yep,
no way. If
yeah.
that doesn't move you, then you might as well just dig yourself a grave and die.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally, totally.
Because and I still, after all these years, I still feel that.
Mm, mm,
And you can imagine what it was like on stage.
incredible. It's
Trying to
incredible.
contain the energy, trying to control yourself while you're performing and doing your job.
Right.
the same time enjoying what the hell is going on that stage. It was just amazing.
Mm,
Amazing.
mm, 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 mm. That's incredible. I mean, and you know, that is a vantage point that you have, you know, and I'm so thankful and so grateful that you choose to share that with me and share that with the audience, because that is something that as fans or music aficionados, or you know, as music consumers, you know, even as musicians, speaking for myself,
Sure.
that is a vantage point that we don't necessarily always see. Like, we might get, you know, in a situation where, oh, this is special, you know, there's something happening here. But it is so important to get that reinforced idea that yes, this is out there, right? These opportunities or these situations are out there.
Sure.
And if you're ever doubting yourself, or if you're ever wondering whether this is, you know, is this the right way to go, or is this what I need to do, or all that, understand that this is out there. You know,
It
this
is.
this is
Yeah.
a reality. And you know, also when you experience those moments and you're doubting them, like, because that's what we do, like, because this we are all our worst critics, like, all the time, right? So you know, there's at least, you know, what you just said is reinforcement that no, you are doing well. Realize it in the moment and don't doubt it. You know,
Yeah.
it's a very, very deep. That's a very big statement to make, and I want to express my gratitude to you for that. It's really deep. The last, and again, I don't want to keep you too long, but the last question that I have for you is, you know, it's somewhat ties in with everything that we talked about. Again, my analysis of the situation with Bring On the Night was that all of a sudden, after that particular project, you saw more Black musicians in the sideman, sidewoman role with white artists, right? And that is not exactly true, because let's not forget, David Bowie went to Philadelphia and did the whole Young Americans album, and that
Yeah.
was almost entirely Black, you know, Sigma Sound and all the musicians involved. So, and there were a number of other artists who had used the services of Black musicians, but after Bring On the Night, it's somehow, at least for me, it solidified it. And again, I was also living in Vienna at the time, you know, with its each with Vienna's struggles of racial uh, life, identity, you know, acceptance. Um, so that certainly influenced how I saw things. But my question to you, my last question to you, is: what do you believe is the continuing effect of that particular project?
Ooh, what kind of question is that? Whoa, you need an intellectual to answer that question.
Yes, I'm sorry. That's just it's
Did
this.
you ask Brad for that?
Yes, yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Oh my God. Ask me that again.
So what do you believe is the continuing effect of the project? What do you believe, like, if this were the drop that went into the ocean or the drop that went into the lake, what do you believe are the ripples of that drop?
Well, I believe because it actually happened to me. So uh, I believe that some of the ripples were that musicians were taking their jobs a little more seriously.
Mm,
Because they knew they had to live up to a standard.
mm,
And so I think because even I started working harder, I started, spending more time with voice lessons and vocalizing and doing it. It made me realize that coming from that gig, there was going to be an expectation
oh yeah, oh yeah,
when I got rehired.
of course, yeah,
So I had to make sure
right,
I lived up to that standard. It wasn't I didn't put it there. It's just human nature. That's what, especially when you're making that kind of money,
Right.
because that was another point of contention
Mm.
in that whole, it even came up in the movie, I
Oh
think,
yeah. Oh yeah. It did. Yeah. 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 Most
about
definitely.
salaries.
Right.
People are spending that kind of money. There's a certain, they want excellence.
Right. Right.
And I think the ripple effect was that, not that people were not striving for excellence, but I think what they were doing is trying harder and working harder,
Yeah.
searching for
Yeah.
that thing, that would allow them and afford them those opportunities that
Oh
we
yeah.
have.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It was very much a spark that was that kind of lit, a fire of, okay, we really need to get our sound together. We really need to play as well as possible.
Right.
There were a number of projects that, even many years after that, after Bring On the Night, I moved to New York in '96, right? So, um, 96, 97, I'm freelancing and I'm getting into, I'm getting my first calls and playing this gig over here, that gig over here, and in the description of the gig, um, I'm trying to come up remember like a correct number, but at least like every third description of a gig was like, this has sort of a Bring On the Night type vibe, right? So we need you to do this and we need you to do that. We need you to play the part, but then at the same time we need you to be free enough to improvise, and the songs are not your standard fare songs. There's the possibility of sort of what you guys, oh, I shouldn't say you guys, but what you managed as a group. There was this communal movement.
Mhm.
The entire band, everybody, instrumentalists and singers, moved as one, right?
We
And
did.
that's, for like, this is now '96 when I'm moving over here, '97. So a solid 10 years after the movie came out and continuing on, it's still the blueprint for that particular uh, endeavor, that particular
Mhm.
interplay, ensemble playing.
Yeah.
Um,
Instrumental playing is great. Yeah.
yeah. So so, but that speaks to your point of the ripple effect being a heightened sense of quality.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
difficult as it is to define quality, but all of a sudden everybody had like a definition for it,
That's right. Yeah.
because there it was. There's the movie. There's the album. Quality. It's right there.
Well,
So,
I was truly blessed because that was an historical event.
oh yeah,
I was lucky enough to be a part of it. I was, for some whatever reason, I was there, and that was, I'm so grateful for that.
yeah.
And
You were there for a reason, though. It's no doubt. Like they needed Dolette McDonald there. There was just no two ways about that. You know. I mean, for real though. In all reality, like in all seriousness, there's a reason why Sting is talking to you at the end of the Synchronicity tour.
yes, yes, I didn't know it then, but looking back on it, I realized that he was just he was finding his way
Right.
and making me aware of that in his own way without really telling me
Yeah. Yeah.
what was going on. And then I got the call. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, listen, thank you so much, Dolette McDonald, for sharing your thoughts, sharing your experiences with us, with me, with us today. It means the world to me. It means a lot to. It means the world to everyone out there watching and listening in on this. Um, this is, as I said earlier, this is a vantage point that is absolutely unique to you, and I want to, with all my sincerity, express my gratitude to you for sharing that vantage point with everyone.
Oh my
That's
gosh, it
big
was,
deal.
thank you for inviting me. At any time I get to talk about that time in my life is a gift
Mm.
because that time was a gift.
Oh yeah.
It is not lost on me.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That time was, and I will cherish it for the rest of my life, no matter what else I do. You know,
Yeah.
that will be uh, one of the biggest gifts that I've gotten in my career for sure.
Mm. Well, and it's a gift to all of us that we are able to listen to you.
Thank
It's
you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
all right. Well, thank you very much.